Right, it's the final weekend of the relegation games in the league. Of course, a couple of them were postponed. We've a few relegation clashes. We've promotion clashes even, I think. But we'll start off in Division 1A. Galway Tipperary, that was postponed because of the weather. So was Limerick against Waterford. So first of all, just a quick look at the permutations in the top division in terms of getting to the knockout stages. Limerick are currently top of Group 1A. Waterford could join them and actually jump over them if they win at the Gaelic grounds.
Head to head,
yeah. Tipperary are currently joint third with Galway. They're both on 4 points. So if Tipperary win, they could either end up in second or third place. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. And same with Galway. Although Galway lost to Waterford, so they wouldn't jump ahead of Waterford.
They'd be third if they beat Tipperary, yeah.
So on the other side, Clare are already through to the semi-finals and they've got a couple of weeks off now.
Yeah.
And like Brian Lohan might be happy to get a couple of guys back from injury, like maybe Davy Fitzgerald who'd had a hamstring injury. So Wexford are second and Kilkenny are third. So Kilkenny will play the second place team in Group A, which at the moment could be Limerick, Waterford, Tip or Galway, and Wexford will play the third place team, which again could be Waterford, Tipperary or Galway. So we'll just have to see how it pans out. There's lots that can happen there. Will we start off with Limerick against Waterford?
Yeah, I think it's as good a place to start as any other, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because if you look back to last year, which was Pádraig Fanning's only season, and I'm sure he'd love another go at it, but I mean, such is life and the way it went. Limerick beat Waterford twice last year, and maybe the game where it all turned for Waterford, because it was looking pretty good in Division 1B. And they got through the semi-finals. Remember they had that turnaround win against Galway in the semi-final.
A brilliant defeat of Clare in the quarter-final as well. They were actually coming into the final in a really good position. 31 points they hit against Clare in that quarter-final game.
They beat them well, didn't they? And then they lost that league final. It was 124 to 19 points. And they looked... I think that kind of changed everything for them. And all of a sudden, the confidence was knocked out of them because of the manner of the defeat.
The scoreline doesn't even do that justice. It was an 8-point hammering. They were never really in the game.
Didn't they seem like they were caught between Billy and Jack? You know, like they didn't know whether to push up on Limerick in the way that Limerick like to drop 12 players back when they're trying to get the ball back. They didn't know whether to push up or push out, and they ended up kind of having a load of players caught around the middle. Limerick would work the ball out and just fire the ball over the top, and the likes of Galan or whoever would get on top.
And of course, that league semi-final was the last game they had won last year as well, which is probably going into early March or late February as well, you know.
In Nolan Park, and that was the day Joe Canning got injured, which of course probably turned Galway's season.
It's an gas, like if you looked at that day, you're thinking Galway are down and out, which they ended up being later on, but you're thinking Waterford are coming now. This is a big result for them, and then the season goes the opposite way completely.
And of course that culminated in that defeat to Limerick, 224 to 10 points. 30 points to 10 really, like it's not double scores, it's triple scores.
Yeah, it was an awful beating, like in your home patch to hit 10 points in a championship game. And I know from chatting to John Milan and even chatting to Dan Shanahan as well, that the occasion and everything in Waterford, they were loving the buzz it was bringing, having games in Walsh Park. And then it was like, a 1 point defeat to Clare, fair enough in the first round, and then this absolute disaster. There's no point in saying any different. They showed nothing, and they threw in the towel on the pitch that day. It was I'd say it was, from Waterford point of view, it was horrible to watch.
Yeah. And do you remember Pádraig Mahoney got sent off that day for a bit of a wild pull? And I was only looking at it again the other day. Yeah, it was wild and potentially dangerous. Possibly like an amber card more so than a red. But then again, you know the way I'm fairly lenient with the old wild tackles. But
most of the referees are usually fairly lenient come championship time too, to be fair.
But it's a fair vote of confidence in Pádraig Mahoney that his next game where he will line out, and he already has, he was playing against Tipperary the other day, for example, his next, he's thrown in as captain. So obviously Liam Cahill is saying to him, you're my man and I believe in you.
Yeah, and even after the Galway game, he's kind of in a new position out around the middle of the field. He's always been really, really good on the ball and really good at scoring from distance and a very good free taker. And he kind of said, Liam Cahill, after that game, if we had more Pádraig Mahoney's, there'd be no issues with us at all. So he's obviously seen a lot with regards to his leadership abilities. That's like not even going near his hurling ability as well. So he obviously saw enough. I know, like the calls he made, dropping Maurice Shannon and Noel Connors. He said, those calls were made based on the type of hurling that he wanted to play. And he also said he'd watched him a lot over the last couple of years. So that call on Pádraig Mahoney being captain, he'd obviously seen enough in the last couple of years and seen enough with Ballygunner that he thought he was the man to lead them forward.
He was quiet enough against Tipperary last week. 2 point loss for Waterford, and that won't bother them at all. There was a couple of nice flashes from him. I spoke about it on our Monday podcast. Mikey Carney, very good. His pace definitely troubled Tipperary. Peter Hogan's did as well. What I would say when you come up against Limerick is those lanes up the centre that they found against Tipperary, and albeit, Liam Sheedy said afterwards, Tipper in the middle of a heavy training sort of block at the moment. I just don't think you're going to see those lanes straight up the middle of that Limerick team. And the guys I've just named, along with, Desi Hutchinson, who looks like he has talent, like even Pádraig Mahoney, Jamie Byrne and Conor Gleeson in midfield, all these lads, size profile wise, and I think most county teams would say the same, they're an awful lot smaller than Limerick. So if you try and run up the centre of them, you mightn't see Tuesday. The
space that they created against Tip, I think you kind of rightly say, it's hard to see those Waterford bodies coming through that kind of middle third, that really, really packed middle third, where they're going to get hit by, your Groel Hegartys and your Tom Morrisseys and your Kyle Hayes. It's like, geez, they're big men. Will O'Donoghue as well. They're big bruisers, like, as well as being able to get up and down the field. They're big, strong, physical men. Kind of, I don't know, like when you think of John Kiley and a lot of his principles and some of the styles of play as well, it does harbour back to like the Kilkenny team, really. You had your big forwards as well. You had your Martin Comforts, even your John Hines at different stages. You had these big, rangy lads who were able to get up and down the pitch, but were able to put in huge tackles and put in huge shift physically up and down as well.
But the guys that you target inside with Limerick really can hurt. Now, Seamus Prendergast is probably more akin to that sort of athletic lad who can hurl, but he wouldn't have the same sort of magic wrist.
Seamus Flanagan.
Yeah, Seamus Flanagan. What did I say?
Seamus Prendergast. At least the right county in fairness.
Yeah, well, look, Waterford could do with Seamus Prendergast.
Couldn't every team do it with one of them?
Yeah, you need that bit of ignorance up there. Jeez, he was some man to
he
win
could
a
put
ball,
over three, but he was able to put over 2 or 3 per game as well. Like,
wasn't it with Ardmore he won a Munster?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, and his helmet was kind of old school as well. Like, fairness.
Big pig ignorant head on him. So do you know who I was impressed with Waterford last week? They went down to 13 men and there was 2 red cards in the space of 3 or 4 minutes before half time, and then of course there was a red card for Cathal Barrett. But Shane McNulty, thought he was really, really good corner back. When he went on Jason Ford, I think he won the vast majority of the 50-50 balls. Pressed at him. Conor Prunty, we've mentioned him a few times. Someone left a comment on one of the videos that we didn't really mention him, but I think we've kind of mentioned him ad nauseum.
Yeah, all year to be fair, last year.
Kevin Moran is going to be suspended, so we'll see who comes in. Maybe Callum Lyons. I mean, he's brilliant. I think he's locked in for the championship team. Really, really good back, and there's probably a fair chance that a lot of the wider public don't even know about him yet.
No, there's a lot of guys there that maybe you wouldn't know Waterford, but the one thing, it just seems to be pace all over the pitch. Not just in their forward line, or not just where they're trying to break the line, full back line the whole way up. And even Stephen O'Keefe is not exactly slow good either. It's pace everywhere. That's kind of going back to Liam Cattle's days with the Tip minors, 20s and 21s as well. Pace, trying to break the line, trying to create goal scoring opportunities. They just look a bit more dangerous this year. Whether you're going to see, as you said, whether you're going to see them be able to get into those opportunities against Limerick, because I just think Limerick will bottle them up an awful lot more. But again, it's an ideal test for them. They're going to have this game and at least one more game before championship, so it's an ideal test for them. I think they'll be very happy with the way it's after working out, even with the cancellations of games, because if they get on a run, quarter-final, semi-final as well, he's learning about his panel an awful lot more. I think it's always better for a new manager. He's thrown in all these guys. You're finding out so much more about these lads in these high pressurised environments.
He probably wants to find out quickly, because let's say they lose this game and they have at least one more knockout game. If they get knocked out at that point, does he have his championship team? Because Austin Gleeson at 6, I think is still very much up for debate. Before he got sent off, he hadn't really much of an impact in the game. At his best, he's in the top 5 players in the country. But I don't know about centre back. And I think I said this last week to you, that there was a number of centre backs there. I think it was the weekend that Clare played Kilkenny. I can't remember who.
Pat O'Connor, Paddy Deegan, all those guys who were talking about.
Yeah, that they were playing at centre back, and the way the opposition were using the ball, that sweeping centre back or that holding centre back, the ball was played away from him all the time, and a lot of the lads struggled to get into the game.
Well, it's funny you say that. Against Galway, Gleeson he didn't start centre back, but he went back centre back early, and Galway put Cathal Mannion in centre back because Gleeson was sitting back.
Centre forward.
Centre forward, sorry. He got 2 points off him, and then they put Conor Gleeson back centre back. So it's kind of, and Liam Cahill said it after, he said it was horses for courses, depending on who they're going to be playing against. And I think that's fairly relevant. Like, Conor Gleeson, I think, would be better centre back when you have a centre forward like that.
With someone you have to mark.
Someone you like with Cottle Mannion, it's not a case of you pass him on, it's a case of you pick him up.
Yeah.
With Joe Canning, it's the same. Whereas maybe there are some other centre forward. Maybe Kyle Hayes is not going to kill you as much. He'll kill you at work rate and that, but he's not going to kill you maybe as much as a Cottle Mannion would from 100 yards.
Yeah.
So it could depend on the opposition that they're playing against.
But then wasn't it Kyle Hayes who scored 4 points in the All Ireland against Galway?
Well, that's true
when
too,
maybe
yeah.
you're not being picked up.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the balance with everything. You're trying to think, how can I move things around so that the opposition will be forced to pick up this player, meaning that another guy will get space here. And often people think, all right, the big lad didn't perform well in the final and another lad got all the scores. Well, that's because the opposition's plan was to stop the other guy.
Yeah.
So that was achieved, but there's always a payoff. There's always give and take in those situations. But I don't know, I think wing back might suit him better. And it's an easy example. It's always kind of fresh in my mind that Burris Lee did it with Brendan Maher, that he would mark the sort of roaming wing forward who goes back into his own half. If Gleeson was marking, let's say this weekend, Grode Hegarty, and I'm not sure if he'd be able to, like, Hegarty's such a good runner from deep, and that with the attacking instincts of Gleeson, I don't know would he pick that up. But if he was on a wing, like, how many wing forwards would like to be facing back towards their own goal, chasing Austin Gleeson? Like, look at the way Tim O'Mahony scored that goal for Cork against Galway last week, an attacking, overlapping wing back.
True.
Surely that suits.
And Gleeson. Without being smart, if you're on a Grode Hegarty or whatever, there's not that room in the middle. There's not forward, backwards, left and right.
Yeah.
There's no left because it's out on the sideline if he's playing wing back. There's inside, they're coming into traffic, and there's forward. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just less kind of area for someone to do damage. That's why, like, invariably your best half forward will be your centre forward, because there's so much room that he can work in around there. So I think there's kind of merit to that, but who to play centre back then is the question. So I don't know.
Well, Tyke de Boer could be back for the summer. Dara Fives, he wasn't named on the 26 against Tipperary, but he did play there against Cork and he was quite impressive.
Yeah, he's keeping him fit is one of the most important things. Again, Tyke de Boer would be a similar centre back to Gleeson in the sense that he would be playing back in the pocket that Derek McGrath always describes. My one worry about him when he comes back is that he hasn't really marked a man in 5-6 years, maybe, a county hurling. So it'll be something.
Derek McGrath would take issue with you saying that.
No, directly marked a man. Directly
without
marked
support.
a man. Yeah.
But it all comes back to the whole point of, do they have their championship team fairly settled on? Maybe Cahill will say it'll be horses for courses, like you're suggesting with the Conor Gleeson, Austin Gleeson thing. Another thing actually is Conor Gleeson. The first day he marked Patrick Horgan, had a real rough time of it, and I could see after 10 minutes this lad's going to get taken off soon. And he's been moved out to midfield, so which I think is a smart move from Cahill. Let him get his confidence up, even if he switches his position later on or gives him a man marking role for whatever, a roving player or whatever. He's a good player, so we need to get him back up to speed.
He's a brilliant player. He's been chasing his tail a bit. He had a big shoulder injury either last year or the year before as well. He's kind of only been, a lot of time he's only been kind of coming back around the time of the summer. So I think keeping him fit and getting him game time, even out the middle of the field, getting him a bit of confidence. He to me, he's still their best man marker. Yeah,
and Jamie Barron is looking. Yeah, there was little hints of the 2017 form. If I was a Waterford person, I'd be fairly excited about the season to come.
Yeah, you definitely have a lot more optimism. As I said, we're chatting John Milan a bit, and I know that he's kind of be a lot more optimistic. His one thing he said was they won't throw in the towel this year. That's the one thing he said, and that's basically saying, in some sense, that they threw in the towel last year. Which, looking at some games in a championship, you would have to think so.
Arguably the year before, because you can't just put it all at Pádraig Fanning's door.
No, I'm not saying that.
Like, I know you're not, but I'm just in general, like, people might be quick to say that.
The year before changed on the ghost goal. Realistically, their summer could have been completely different. I know they were missing bodies, but the day against Tipperary, the day the goal was given against Austin Gleeson, changed their kind of summer. I know from chatting to Dan Shannon recently, it's still a sore point with him. He still thinks if that goal hadn't been given, they would have beaten Tipperary. We wouldn't be talking about 3 years since winning the championship game, and he thinks they would have beaten Cork then and got through. Ifs and buts, but
candy and nuts.
Yeah.
What about Galway? Actually, sorry, before we go on to that, is there anything about Limerick that you're noticing, that you're liking, disliking? 4 wins from 4 plus 21 score difference. I mean, if we jump back to the first day, Tipperary were using a novice team, probably came back later, all that kind of stuff. You know, Limerick had absolutely burst everyone in the Munster Hurling League, so they were hitting the ground running. So it's hard to know what to take from that. But are you liking what you're seeing from Limerick?
You know what you're going to get from them, and they've refined it even a bit more, I think.
In what way?
It's even more high pressure now. The pass that you think, I've only kind of really noticed this there. The pass that you think they're not going to give, that high pressure pass, even in defence, they're giving it now. So they totally trust in their own ability and totally trust in their own kind of system. So I'd say, as slick as it is at this time of the year, it will be even slicker come summertime.
Yeah, I didn't see the Westmeath game, but I'm sure it wasn't too much trouble for them.
They were only back the night before from a week's training in Portugal, I think, was it as well? So
grand, isn't it?
Yeah, it is grand.
A few pounds to spend on it. Yeah, I'd refer back to that game against Galway also, when they were playing ball around to each other with a man up their hole, and it was no problem to them. Yeah, I've got my back to the play. Give me a stick pass in my own half.
I wonder, is there a plan B? I wonder, is there a plan B? I wonder.
Plan B is do plan A better.
Yeah, I think it kind of looks like that. I think the Kilkenny game last year in the semi-final, if they'd gotten over it, would have been ideal coming into the All-Ireland final, because it would have been a seriously rude awakening. But their work rate dropped in the first 20 minutes compared to normal. Kilkenny's upped, and they were left kind of chasing the game the whole way through. But I just wonder, I know what you're saying about plan B being, plan A and doing it a bit better. I wonder, is there something that we're not seeing maybe later in the summer, be it maybe being a bit more direct at different stages? Have they a plan for if Galan is missing? I'd imagine they have.
I don't imagine they have an effective one if he's missing. Definitely comment and let us know if you think that they would have another plan. Because they have a certain amount of options that are brilliant options. Like, everyone knows what Graham Mulcahy will do, and if he gets good ball and he's in space, best of luck to that corner back.
Yeah.
Like Seamus Flanagan, he's like going to barrel through you, and he's very good at making runs left and right, dragging out the full back, getting on ball. Graham Mulcahy, everyone knows the way the ball is going into him. And I said this to you last year, like, everyone kind of had enough film to study how they're going to play. And ultimately it was stopped, but maybe that was a one-off by Kilkenny. But I don't know. I don't see what plan B would be. It's not as if they have a few lads where you can truck the ball up to Seamus Prendergast that we mentioned.
Well, people are going to say now, why would you need a plan B when the plan A is so good? And I totally get that.
And if Declan Hannon is injured for the year, does that mean panic stations? Like, that was a big thing in that Kilkenny game last year that sometimes get overlooked. And he's picking up a lot of injuries in the last couple of years.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have been left on as long as he was in the first half. I'd say if anything like that happened again, it would just be, they have Barry Nash to come in wing back, they have Dan Morrissey to go in centre back, so they have those options. They have Paddy O'Loughlin as well. They have more options even than they had last year. So it'll be interesting to see. But I have a sinking suspicion that we might see something a little different come summer, if it warrants.
They're down Shane Dowling and they're down Richie English, so. I know the options are narrowing, because every time you take one of those experienced guys who you know can deliver whatever it is, like impact sub for Dowling in the past few years, Richie English, you can trust him to do a job. Aaron Costello's come in corner back. I've been quite impressed with him. Maybe it'll be someone else come the summertime. But I don't know, like, as soon as you take away one or two options, this sort of perceived depth, which they definitely have more of than other teams, once you chip away at it a little bit, you start to see, like, look at Tipperary in the Munster final last year before they picked what I felt earlier in the year should have been closer to what they ended up with eventually. You took Bonner out of that team, and all of a sudden you were lacking a bit of work rate and someone to win the ball. You were missing Carl Barrett at the other end, so you were lacking a bit of speed to keep into somebody. Like, you take a couple of players out of a team, everything can change.
Yeah, they'll be definitely hoping that, especially in April, that they don't pick up anything in club action or anything like that. It's all kind of fun and games, and your squad is unbelievably strong until, as you say, you're missing two. And then what happens if you're missing 3 or 4, if you're missing another starter? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully they'll come through with a clean bit of health. The two lads they're missing is enough for them to be missing for the moment. They wouldn't want to be missing anyone else.
Like, we haven't talked about this beforehand, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot and myself on the spot also. Of all the teams that are contending for an All-Ireland, who's the player that a team could least afford to lose? So, like, if you were to look at Galway last year, of course the absence of Canning was massive, but they still won down in Nolan Park. So, that's not easy for any team to do with their full team. So that's a fair show of kind of quality.
Kilkenny, TJ Reid, just off the top of my head.
It probably is, isn't
just
it?
Off the top of me, because you're going through, I'm thinking, I just thought Tipperary and I said Seamus Callan, and you're thinking, Yeah, massive loss if anything happening, but they still have John McGrath, they still have Bubbles. They could maybe push Noel McGrath centre forward, bring someone in midfield. They still have options. They still have Jason Ford. They still have Niall O'Mara. He'd be a massive loss, but at least they have a couple of good young fellas to come through as well. So I think they'd still have a chance, despite the fact they scored 8-17 from play in last year's championship. If TJ was missing...
right, look, I've just quickly looked it up there. Callan scored 8 of Tip's 12 goals in the championship last year. I actually think the knock-on effect of losing Callan would be more than any other Tip player. I think that would... I don't think Tip would win All Ireland without him.
Yeah, I think he'd be the biggest player for Tip to be missing. I think overall...
Take Patrick Horgan out of Cork.
Yeah. It's not a particularly nice prospect for them, I'd say.
Yeah, like, so who else do we have there? Who else is an All Ireland contenders? Take Gillan out of Limerick.
Take Gillan out of Limerick.
Or Hannon.
Keane
Lynch.
Keane Lynch should be nearly more important than Hannon.
Are we just going to name all the best players in the country?
No, I think you're looking at Limerick, Cork, Clare. Take Tony Kelly out. Take their talisman out.
Take Shane O'Donnell out of that Clare team. The way he's going, the way he's shaping up.
Yeah. Take David McInerney out.
Yeah.
I'd say Clare's most important player. Probably O'Donnell, in the sense that, I don't know, he always seems to deliver. He rarely has a quiet day, and he always gets special attention as well.
Lee Chin? Is he the most important player for Wexford?
Funnily enough, I would say someone like Matt O'Hanlon is more important, from the sense that he seems to always tie down one of the opposition's best players and allow others to play. Take Kevin Foley out. Take your sweeper out. Take the player who plays a role maybe like no other.
There's a reason that Kevin Foley took over as sweeper from Sean Murphy, and Sean Murphy's form has gone up massively since, because, I don't know, the role out wing back seems to be suiting him a little bit better, or picking up certain guys. Kevin Foley, the way he plays sweeper, it's just not being played like that by anybody else. So I'm tending to agree with you on that. If anyone else went in and tried to do what he's doing, number one, it would take a long period to try and even do it that way, and number two, I just don't know if anyone has the same skill sets.
Yeah, just looking at some of the other teams there, take Marty Kavanagh at Carlow, and you're taking their Chris Nolan aside, you're taking their best forward and the lad who's going to deliver a handful of scores from play and put over frees every day.
Take Owen O'Donnell.
Owen O'Donnell was the one out of Dublin. Yeah, to
and
be
then
fair.
Laois, take Ross Paddy Purcell, actually. Those bursts and runs up the centre, or would you go Ross King?
Laois. I'd probably... Ross King was missing for long stages last year and just survived. And funnily enough, like, Mark Kavanagh hasn't been mentioned at all this year because he's been injured. So when he comes back for the summer, he'd be a massive addition. I'd probably say Paddy Purcell, just with the drive and runs.
Yeah.
And he might not always offer it on the scoreboard, but he's doing a lot of that kind of on-scene work as well.
Yeah. Have we mentioned every team now? Because we don't want to leave anyone out. Did we mention Waterford?
No, we didn't mention Waterford. And someone like Jamie Barron, for me, a dynamo around the middle, when I think it's always obvious when he's not playing.
At the moment, though, if you took Stephen Bennett out of full forward, I don't know what they do for a focal point.
Yeah, he offers an awful lot of brawn as well as the skill and being able to bag a couple of scores from playing every game. But it'd be very interesting to see what people think, particularly people from those counties. I won't have any debate with anyone over Kilkenny, though.
Yeah.
TJ is easily, like, by far and away, taking out their 99% free taking rate and his ability to win ball, and it's just the ability to lift them off the floor when they need to be.
But if you took Colin Fennelly out of that team, teams could really focus on targeting teams.
They could go after it. But
Adrian Mullins out.
But you're saying take number 2 away to go more at number 1, if you know what I mean.
Look, you had me banked right there. Right, let's move on to Galway against Tipperary. It's actually a great rivalry, isn't it, to be fair? Like, the teams have been so close with each other over the last... Going back all the way to 2015, you had those 3 semi-finals in a row. I remember at the time doing a piece for the match programme, possibly for the 2017 one, when Galway won, obviously, by a point. Canning scored the winner. But it reminded me of that movie Dunkirk, that war movie, which is actually not a great movie. But there's this style of music whereby they put the music it kind of plays in loops, but they have something going on in the background where it feels like the tension is building forever.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I thought, but it's actually in a loop, but it just felt like it was really stressful to watch. Like, and maybe I'm saying that as a Tipperary supporter, a big fanboy of Tipperary. Maybe that was it, but I found those games unbelievably stressful to watch. Did you ever have that with, let's say, when you were I mean, I presume your fire isn't lit like any, you know, when you're watching Offaly, there's nothing else that lights your fire or gets you as stressed as anything else. Was there any kind of series of games that ever got you going, ooh, so stressful?
Oh, it was the Offaly Clare 98 trilogy.
Yeah.
And then that's coming after it had been beaten in 95 as well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's that horrible nervous tension, meeting these lads again, and just, it's always that bit of hatred as well, that kind of healthy rivalry, but you obviously hate them. I remember them bawling in tears watching 95 All-Ireland, and then to get one over on them in 98. But every week, the drama around that kind of series of games is unbelievable. Whereas Galway and Tip, it's been that 3-game drama, but it's just been over like 3 years, shall we say, those 3 successive kind of big games. But funnily enough, when Tip didn't get out of Munster in 18, I remember the Clare game. They were up in that Clare game, the last game. They were up by maybe 5 or 6 coming down the home stretch.
Galway were?
No, Tip were against Clare in 18 in the Munster Championship.
And
the last
Jake Morris hit the post.
Yeah, and I remember thinking when they were 6 up, I said, these whores now. I said they're gonna get out of Munster and they're gonna dethrone Galway. That's the way. In my head I was like thinking they're the one team that can beat Galway. And whatever it is, like Galway were much better than Tip in 17, much better. But it could only scrape over by a point. Tip had serious doubts coming into that game, particularly over their full back line. We're only able to scrape over them. In 15, Galway scraped over Galway.
Over
Tip.
Maloney,
despite Cannon scoring, was it 3-8?
3-8. And remember, Colm Cannon made an unbelievable save from Lara Corbett.
That's right,
when he
yeah.
pulled
Lara was only after coming in on the pitch, wasn't he? Yeah, he was not long in, yeah.
And Noel McGrath had come back from his bout of cancer. And John McGrath had a hip injury, so he missed that season.
And Noel came on in the 78th minute, scored a point a minute later. He got a standing ovation coming on, scored a point. It looked like he was going to be the story kind of that day, and then it changed in the last couple of minutes. But they've been phenomenal games. When was the last time they played an All-Ireland final? Like, because as good as they've been...
2001.
Over the last decade, as good as they've been, they haven't met in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the year, I don't know. But
the reason I found it stressful is because physically Galway were a bigger team and they were just all over Tipperary. Like Tipperary obviously have more risks, we know that. But I know, I genuinely do believe that Galway were a more physical athletic team and probably making up a little bit from having slightly fewer players that had the same level of skill as those Tip lads who had less athleticism. So it's a give and take thing.
It's funny you should say that, because I would have thought the same about Clare in 98. It was like, these beasts, like they're trained to a degree that no GA team had been trained to before. You could say something similar about Galway. There had never been a team 3 or 4 years ago that were as mobile, as physical and as athletic as they were.
Well, let's talk about Galway Tip this weekend. When I was looking back on the Galway Cork game from the weekend, and you know Cork went down to 14 men when Robbie O'Flynn was sent off, I was just trying to analyse, I already knew the result when I was watching it. I was trying to analyse the setup of this team. So you had Pádraig Mannion midfield, and maybe it changed after a while, and it's hard to know on TV all the time what's happening. But Pádraig Mannion seemed to be marking Dara Fitzgibbon around midfield.
Yeah.
You had Adrian Toohey wearing number 12, but seemed to be kind of playing midfield. And I just wonder how, like Shane Cooney was centre back, Fintan Burke was one of the wing backs, and the other one was... I'd have to double check now, but he's definitely seems to be moving the pieces around to try and find a bit of freshness.
Yeah, I think he's definitely trying to find a place for Shane Cooney centre back. It looks like he's going with that anyway. It's 2 or 3 games now he's played him there. I think it's kind of what we said about Waterford earlier. I think it's maybe horses for courses a bit. He maybe thought Pádraig Mannion would be able to stick with Dara Fitzgibbon, which he would be able to stick with him. And just to maybe see, is that an option come summertime? Is that an option? They're obviously in different provinces, but if they play Waterford later in the year, would Pádraig Mannion be a good option to pick up Jamie Barron? Or do you know what I mean? So it's clever enough to move it around. Adrian Toohey, I'm not sure. Like, cornerback, we know him as that cornerback when they won the All-Ireland in 17, has kind of been played, apart from 18, last year he was played everywhere, but he was wing forward, he was midfield, he was centre forward at different stages the other day as well. So I'm not sure, he's trying to move the pieces around and make it flexible enough, but I'd say we obviously are not privy to the conversation with Dahi Burke isn't back in there yet, but I'd say he knows his full back and his centre back now.
I wonder, is there any chance that Pádraig Joyce has tried to lure Dahi Burke into the footballers? Because you know he did play there. Was it 2014, 2015?
Yeah, when they were beaten by Tip actually.
And that Galway football team, if you put a pig like Dahi Burke into it, that's only going to make them better.
A pig
in a good way,
in the most generous way possible.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate compliment.
Yeah.
And like he's quality too. Oh jeez, if I was Pádraig Joyce, I'd be trying to move heaven and earth.
I'm sure those conversations have happened. But I'd be very surprised if he went away from the. Well, he's obviously not. They're expecting him back in the coming weeks with the hurlers. But he'd be like, it's amazing to think that, you know, he can win man of the match in the Club All Ireland last year and then just seamlessly go back into a hurling setup and then go back to a football setup in the winter and then come back to a hurling setup again. Very interesting to see. We've talked about it regularly. Just really interesting to see where he plays. That's why if they were to get a win and get through Galway, I think it would be huge, because you might see him back in the knockout stages of the league. Yeah. If they lose, they're gone. They're not playing championship for 9 weeks, and everything goes on behind closed doors. And while playing Dahi Burke midfield in a practice match, or centre back, or maybe he'll just go back full back, playing him in a new position in practice matches is grand, but it's just not the same as a league game or what's going to come in a championship game.
Yeah, the other wing back was actually Aidan Hart, and in the corners you had Darren Morrissey. Is it Darren or Dan Morrissey? No, it's Darren Morrissey.
Yeah. Minor winning captain a couple of years ago.
He definitely was under pressure at times, looked good at other times. Everyone struggles on Shane Kingston. I think
he was good against Waterford, I have to say. Very good, actually.
It was tough for Grode McInerney playing full back, because I think anyone who's played corner back knows that, let's say I'm corner back and the goals is over there, I always mark you from this side. I know that's home. If it's on the far side, I mark you from this side and you're over there. So you're always trying to stay goal side. When you're full back, that's just a moving platform all the time.
Yeah.
And there are certain balls that you just can't go for it, because I have to let you get that ball in front of me, because otherwise I might put myself in a position to be spun and then it's goal on and I'm looking like a fool. And I think that's something that probably Grode McInerney is wrestling with at times.
Yeah, he just got caught in a bit of space, and he wouldn't be used to that, because he'd always have cover centre back, or he'd always be surrounded by bodies, whereas the last day there's a diagonal ball into Kingston and there was just acres around him, and it's very, very difficult. If he gets the ball, which you can't really commit to going for that ball when it's only a 40-60 against you. So he caught him, but to be fair, Kingston would do that to most players. It's not as if he totally dusted him or anything either.
No.
He was barely getting away from him, but he was able to get enough to get a strike on.
Yeah, Kingston did score 2 points, and he probably could have had more on another day. And at times he moved out the field. I was interested with Galway that there was a nice bit of variety in how Conor Whelan was playing. I've seen him do more damage on other days. I think what did he get? He got I think he got a couple of scores. Actually, he was scoreless, but he moved out to centre forward, and it gave Cork something else to think about, because they had to decide, right, who goes on him, because was it Niall O'Leary was playing corner back, really tight to him. I think he gave away a free or two, but I was impressed with him.
It's funny what you said earlier about opposing teams being able to concentrate all their attention on him. So by opposing teams, Conor Whelan getting the score sheet, by opposing teams putting all their attention on him, Conor Cooney got more space, Jason Flynn got more space, Cathal Mannion got more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, looking at score sheets, and that can be very deceptive. Remember when you're younger, looking at a score sheet and you're thinking, 7 points, 4 frees, 3 from pledges, he was deadly, and then you see another lad that didn't score anything and he was shite, whereas that's not accurate at all.
No. I watched Cathal Mannion closely playing at midfield.
Yeah, you're not sold.
I'm not fully sold, but I can definitely see the merits of it. And it's interesting having him and his brother out midfield together. The thing about Cathal Mannion is he's such great wrists, and he's very composed on the ball. And I think he's an elusive runner. Like when he's soloing with it, he has deceptive pace. And
he can just throw it on the hurl. He can have it and look like he's going to strike, and then he can throw it on the hurl and just glide
he's
away
very good
from
at doing that thing of sort of throwing it up on the hurley and then sort of darts off left or right.
Changes direction.
And like as a guy who's chasing back, you're kind of a little bit kind of off balance then trying to keep up with him. So I can definitely see the merits to putting him midfield. Do you think it's possible, like, and we mentioned this earlier in the year, that Davy Burke, as he did the other day, could come in wing forward, and Shane O'Neill is just moving around the pieces and actually ends up stumbling on a bit of freshness for the players, mentally as much as anything else, and just finds that right formula?
Yeah, well, Davy Burke came on the other day in more of an attacking role, I would have said.
Yeah, he was wing forward for my money.
More of an attacking role, we kind of talked about it before. He's played at midfield for a long time, apart from a stint in the forward. I think he got an All-Star in 12 as a forward, a corner forward maybe. But that's a long time around the middle of the field. I just think he might be rejuvenated in another role. He's still going to offer you a lot of what he offered you at midfield, because half forwards are going to work back the line now, and he's going to end up playing as an auxiliary kind of half back, or even as a third midfielder at times. But I just think he could be freshened up a bit there. You're not directly marking a man as much when you're playing half forward. You don't have to worry about your own man as much, and I think he'd play that role very well.
Unless we go back to what we were saying about Austin Gleeson, you're on someone like him and you're inviting him onto your own team and trying to chase back on him. So it's always that balance. So Tipperary won by 2 points last week against Waterford. Dylan Quirk, really impressed with him, 4 points from play. And when I was thinking about it afterwards, I wasn't that blown away by anybody else. But do you just say...
You still won the match.
You won the match. Do you say, right, Liam Sheedy says we're in the middle of a big training block, and you take that at face value? No, it's rare that managers would actually put that out there, because generally it comes across as an excuse, but it's easier to do that when you've won.
Yeah.
So if they're winning anyway, and a young lad who you think would be more able for their training recovery sort of rota, like Dylan Quirk is scoring, that kind of tallies with what you'd expect. But it's other than Dylan Quirk, have Tip found too many new players that you think this guy can challenge for the first 15?
That's the first game he started, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he came on against Limerick and possibly somebody else.
Well, Keane Darcy has played a bit. Jake Morris has played a bit. They've both been relatively busy over the spring kind of period between colleges. Mark Keogh a bit as well. We haven't seen maybe that much of Jerome Cattle and a couple of other lads maybe that played last year came on towards the latter stages. Yeah, Brian O'Mara's been seen a bit as well. Yeah, I wouldn't think you'd be looking and saying, "Oh, Jake Morris is definitely going to start," or Keane Darcy is definitely going to start, or Dylan Quirk is definitely going to start. They're options, but yeah, you probably would have been expecting to see, Craig Morgan's after coming in there, maybe he could be cornerback this year. We haven't really seen that yet. That's probably why I didn't think it earlier in the year, but for them to get through to a knockout stage now, I thought they would have learned more by now. I thought we'd have a better idea about who maybe are their kind of live options come in, or who are there maybe an option to play cornerback or wing back or even wing forward. So I think they'll be going relatively gung-ho to get a result, because that's at least one more game then where they'll learn more about lads.
Do you think Noel McGrath, when he was put in corner forward the last day, I mean, originally Willie Connors was named corner forward, and it was Paddy Cadell who came in midfield, which meant Noel McGrath moved to corner forward. Now that could have been known 2 or 3 days beforehand. We don't know. But do you think for Noel McGrath, who's played midfield the last year or so, he was probably like, this is brilliant, back to my old position, a little change for a week?
Yeah, it's only for a week. To be honest with you,
but like, have you ever had that when you've been switched position just for a day, and it's actually a novelty, and you're in great form after?
Rarely happens with cornerbacks, because you're that pigeon. You're that pigeonholed.
So useless.
Well, listen, I never claimed to be much good, but even like we were chatting about in another video about Damien Fitzhenry playing outfield for a spring in '96 when they won the All Ireland. And it just would totally rejuvenate you.
Nicky Quaid plays centre back for Effin.
Yeah.
Should we know Glenmore have Owen Murphy out centre back? Or he was definitely in the outfield anyway.
He can play out in the forwards as well. I remember Cody played Jackie Tyrrell midfield for a Leinster final win one year as well. Yeah. It just does freshen you up. It sharpens you up a bit. Plus, it's a little shock to the body. When you're used to playing, just say Noel McGrath is used to playing midfield, he's used to probably going at the same pace the whole time, if you know what I mean. No more than if I was cornerback making darty kind of runs. If he's playing corner forward, it's different. It's 20 or 30 yard runs. It's kind of more speed based. So I don't think, I think he'd be happy enough with it. I think it probably would have been more of a case of not giving too much away for the first round of the Munster Championship.
And also, if that was the case, there is another little benefit that's probably you wouldn't really even intend on. But Noel is getting a reminder if he needed it, and his general play suggests he doesn't. But he's sort of reminded, this is the way I want the ball in if I'm the corner forward, because he's playing in there and he's like, this is what works and this is what doesn't work. But I'm just saying, in a general sort of theory thing, he like, I know what that corner forward is being presented with now, so I give him a ball that I know will favour him.
All the boys in St Brendan's and Burrell know this one. We had a soccer teacher, or soccer coach, Mr. Cleary was his name years ago, and we had a fella playing, Bosa Salako was his name. He used to play up front.
Free?
Yeah, he used to play up front, and Mr. Cleary said, Bosa, you've got pace, you're a good striker, you're great running off the ball and this kind of thing. That's why we're going to play you left back. It's because the type of ball that he wants to get in, and it's just like, that's basically what you're saying. I think it's absolute nonsense.
Are you serious?
I know. He knows, Noel McGrath knows what type of ball a forward needs.
I know, but I'm just saying a little gentle refresher.
Maybe they should put him back corner back for a day.
Yeah, maybe. No, but I know I've definitely gone up and played the likes of centre forward or even full forward. And I think, and look, anyone who's seen me play will probably slate me because I'm not exactly a lethal full forward. But it gives you a fair indication, having played against full forwards, I actually know what this lad won't like. Even if I don't have the skill set to punish them.
Yeah, no, true enough.
I have an idea of
well, you know what you wouldn't like.
Yeah.
So you just try and kind of do that, yeah.
So anything else to say on that match?
No, it should be another interesting game. There's a decent bit at stake for both of them because I didn't think it earlier, but I think both will like an extra game.
We could analyse it a bit better if we kind of had an idea of what sort of teams would be out there.
Yeah, you have no idea really. Yeah,
if it's championship, then you can fairly much predict the teams. You know what the story's going to be. We'll look at the relegation playoff.
This is the biggest game of the weekend.
Yeah, Westmeath against Carlow, and they're building up a nice little rivalry in the sense that there always tends to be stuff at stake when Carlow play with Westmeath. Like, look at the league game in 2018. Carlow won the 2-way final. Then the Joe McDonagh Cup, Carlow beat Westmeath again. So again, there's something at stake.
It's a massive mistake. Because both were out of their depth in Division 1. But both would have learned an awful lot about what it takes, I suppose, to compete at that level. They've got the taste for it, and now one of them is going to go back down. And regardless of, if you're preparing for next year's league and you know you're coming up against five of the best teams in the country, you know you have to raise your standards to a certain level. I remember chatting to Colin Bonner about this. It's just like, the boys have got a taste for it. How can I sell them on going back to 2A and extra? How can I sell them? It's just not possible. You're going to Tipperary, you're going wherever. It's a big sell. It's what everybody wants. Regardless of beatings or any other, you're pitting yourself against the best, you're in the spotlight. Whereas now you're going back down a division, harder to motivate yourself, harder to get lads training, harder to maybe get the squad that you want. You might find that you have lads maybe dropping off a small bit. So it's a huge game for both of them, particularly from a Carlow point of view. Bonner has got them up to a level. They played Leinster Championship last year, a couple of creditable performances. The last thing they want is to drop. They're basically dropping outside of the top 12 in the country, having been in the top 5 in Leinster. Now they're dropping outside the top 12 in the country. So it's a huge game for both of them.
If you look at their 5 games each, Carlow lost by an average of 12 points and Westmeath lost by an average of 11 points. So there were
Jesus, I would have thought Westmeath would have lost by more.
So it was like
in a tougher division, I would have said.
Minus 59. So
right, okay.
More or less those are the numbers, give or take. Carlow, they, like Colin Bonner said after the Wexford game, which they lost comprehensively enough, but he kind of said the nature of the game, it was always going to come down to possibly how we do against Laois and Westmeath. We competed well against Laois, they lost by a point. Didn't take the results, so the draw went against us in terms of home advantage. So, do we read anything into them being beaten comprehensively by Wexford?
Zero. I wouldn't read anything into it. It's very, one of those games where it's a game to get to the most important game, and you're going to be at that most important game anyway. I don't know. I'd find it hard to motivate myself. Do you want to? It's
a bit like Antrim against Offaly this weekend, which we'll talk about in a second because they're already through. But even the Carlow's match analyst Terence Kelly, he was talking about the injuries afterwards, and he was like, Marty Kavanagh hopefully be okay. John Michael Nolan will probably start as long as nobody gets injuries during the week, and he hopes David English is okay. That's a bit of a concern. So injuries, imagine like a relegation and the knock-on effects of that going down to outside the top 12.
Well, just what he mentioned there.
Of injuries.
Yeah, just what he mentioned there. Imagine a lad going gung-ho in the Wexford game last weekend and picking up a knock and missing this weekend. It's in a way it's pointless. This is the only game. Would have been the game. If they didn't get a result against Dublin or Laois, this was the game that they would have been eyeing the whole time. So this is nearly as important as any game they'll play this year.
What's good about this is that it's actually on TG Carr. It's a preferred clash.
Fair play. And it's smart because it's a game that means a lot and it's going to be very competitive and there's a lot at stake.
And do you remember 2018? I think the throw-in for that Joe McDonagh final was just a few minutes before the Munster final started.
I think it was the same last year.
Yeah, so the amount of people that would have watched was very few. So at least a good few more people presumably will watch that. Sure, GA fans will watch whatever GA is on telly.
Definitely, yeah. I think Carlow will just edge it. I think they've kind of had the hoodoo over them the last couple of years.
Westmeath did well against Cork, and I suppose they weren't totally battered by Limerick, even though there's plenty of those games they weren't in, but you could say that for Carlow too. The way they played against Dublin must have been somewhat dispiriting, and then obviously Wexford battered them. So Up in the air.
I'll go with Carlow by a score or two.
Even in Cusack Park abroad in Mullingar.
Yeah, which is an interesting one.
Well, that was what was that down to? Yeah,
maybe I don't know if there's an arrangement between the two of them. I don't know, but it's nice from their point of view to have home advantage.
So the refixed round 2A game between Offaly and Antrim, whether postponed the first go at making this game happen,
and that's totally changed the scenario now completely.
Well, like the last round of games have to all happen together. I mean, that's very unfair for Fintan O'Connor and Kerry. That if this game had been played previously, like, we don't know will Antrim be given 100% in this game. Whoever lines out in the field, of course, will try their hardest. Everyone wants to win a game when they're out there. But are they going to put out their full team because they know the following week? And even mentally, are you going to give that same 100% of yourself when you know that the following week we're out in the final anyway?
Yeah, it's like Carlow against Wexford last week. Yeah. Were they going to give their best last week when this weekend is a more important game? So I'd say the same with Antrim. Even subconsciously, I think it's difficult when you know there's a final at place. And again, only the winning team in the final gets promoted.
Yeah.
So like that is the game to perform in. Like, will Neil McManus play this weekend? I doubt he will. That's my own personal opinion.
A loss or a draw will do for your boys to get into the final.
A loss or a draw? No.
Win or a draw. Want it?
No, I think we have to win. We have to win because we lost to Kerry. We've lost to Kerry already.
Oh, sorry.
Have to win. To win. And a couple of injury concerns as well. Ben Keneally hurt his shoulder against Mayo. I think he left the ground against Mayo in a sling. He didn't play last weekend. I think Oisin Kelly I heard it was a broken finger. He definitely has a finger injury. He had something similar last year as well. So there's your best defender and one of your best attackers. So I'd be confident that one of them will play, but both of them probably won't play. But they're going to need to produce a result. My own club, my own cattle, is going very well.
17 points against Wicklow.
Yeah, he's actually made the GA.E team of the week the last 2 weeks. So someone is looking at the scores down the lower divisions. In fairness to him, and that's
the free takers tend to do well.
Well, that's true. Yeah, 2013 were from Freeze. He's obviously was the Offaly goalkeeper last year and the year before as well. Seems to have made a very, very good transition outfield. Has always played his outfield hurling, or always played outfield with Burr. It's a big game. I find it hard to get away from the fact that Antrim don't have as much to play for as Offaly do.
Does that affect Offaly too, in that they'll sense, we're going out against an Antrim team that aren't going to be up for it, and then that actually lowers them?
Well, if it does, you might as well try your hard. This is their game. This is their game in the spring. They have to win this game to have any hope. Getting to the promotion final was the game they wanted to be in at the start of the league. Winning this game gives them a path to that final, so there should be no complacency or anything like that.
Offaly won the Kyo Cup final against Antrim in January.
I was at the game. I was at the game. Actually, a very good game for the time of the year. I think it was 116 to 115. Offaly were up the whole way, up by 5 coming into injury time, ended up a level, and then Michael Dyden's son Brian got the winner. Antrim are a really physical team. Keelan Malloy was one of their best players that day. Hadn't played much. Played last weekend against Kerry. We should always also throw in the caveat that Kerry are missing like their best player last weekend by a country mile, so that would have affected them. Yeah, like it's like as Fintan O'Connor said, if he had ducks, he said they'd drown, and it's hard to kind of disagree with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Offaly Antrim game is probably a guide, but I think the glaring thing is that Antrim are through already, and I imagine Offaly will book their place in the final against them.
Genuine question: would it be a good thing for Offaly to be in Division 1 next year and potentially suffer the sort of beatings that Westmeath and Carlow have had to endure? Is it too early in what Michael Fennelly's trying to do to expose them to that level when they're in the third tier of the championship structure?
Yeah, I think sometimes you're better off to be consistent without being outstanding. Like, just say, would Meath footballers be better off being in Division 2 this year, having just been pipped for promotion last year? I think they probably would be.
They go into the summer with confidence.
Yeah, whereas this year they go into the summer, I think, with no confidence, because they're probably going to lose 7 games in Division 1.
Yeah.
And that's coming after losing 3 Super 8s games last year. So I think if Offaly were to get to a final, I think that would be a start. If they didn't win the final, it wouldn't be the end of the world. They could probably build to try and win in it next year then. But if they don't get to the final at all, I think it'd be a bit of a disaster.
Yeah. Okay, so the division, there was another refix game down in Division 2, 2B I should say, Derry against Kildare.
2B, I remember Down played Division 2B final before, and the headline in the Down paper, which I can't think of the name of it, was "To Be or Not to Be." You know, it's beautiful. Like, love stuff like that.
It was ready made. Derry, Kildare, both Derry have won 4 from 4, Kildare have won 3 of 4, and Kildare are putting up serious scores, plus 61 out of those 3 wins. So essentially, Kildare win this game, and you're going up alongside Down, and you're going to be in that promotion final.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it works out, I presume. Yeah,
well, it'd have to be because you're Down at the moment. Well, Down or top.
Is there no way that would be a
there's a three-way playoff.
Three-way playoff. Yeah, I'm not too sure if that goes to head-to-head or score difference. It probably goes to score difference.
Well, if there's 3 teams, it can't be head-to-head.
No.
So at which point it would be scoring difference, and that would put Derry as the odd ones out because at the moment it's plus 61. Kildare, that would only improve by winning.
Yeah.
Plus 51 Down.
Yeah, it's in Kildare were beaten last weekend. That was their first defeat last weekend against Down, which kind of put Down in a very, very good position.
Yeah. Well, like this is kind of like the dream scenario of a game being refixed.
Yeah.
Because it's ended up being a knockout game, whereas obviously the Offaly Antrim one is the disaster.
You obviously have David Herity against Johnny McAvoy's Derry manager as well.
Yeah.
Derry are undefeated, but could yet end up in trouble if they lose. They could potentially end up out if they lose. Home advantage is a big thing for them as well. They don't have. I know Christy McKeag is just playing football this year. I was talking to him earlier on in the year. He just said it's not possible to commit to both at inter-county level at the moment. They obviously do have Brendan Rodgers, which is a big draw for them. It's very, very difficult to call. Kildare will be stung having gone to Down last week and not won on the road. But geez, I'd be hard pressed to pick a winner in that one now, to be honest with you. Massive. Like Kildare were very poor in the league last year. Didn't even make it to the knockout stages. Didn't make it to a final. I think we're in relegation trouble, even close to it. So it'd be a big deal for them to get back into a final. But the likes of James Burke, Brian Byrne, who we would have heard a good bit about. But very, very difficult game. To call.
I read an article in the Irish World about the Division 2B relegation playoff between London and Warwickshire, and it goes like this: Luke Hans is cutting it fine, and any jet lag is just going to have to wait. There's a relegation playoff to be won. The Warwickshire forward, along with his brother Anthony, flies into Heathrow on Saturday evening, just hours before the team's do-or-die Division 2B clash with his former county London at McGovern Park. The pair were in Thailand to attend the wedding of their brother Coleman. And then a quote, Hans says, "We'll see how we are on Sunday morning." He actually won a Christie ring with London in 2012, and he qualifies for Warwickshire because he was born in Coventry.
He's an absolute brute.
Yeah.
He'd be big into kind of bodybuilding and gym work and all that. Like he's huge, like he's massive. Funnily enough, somebody sent me on a picture of Anthony Hans's, I don't know, his Snapchat or whatever, but he was sitting in an airport the day before a Warwickshire League game, and there was I don't know, was it a pint of Stella or whatever it was in front of him. But definitely, like you would have never seen a scenario where two English teams would play in a game kind of that kind of magnitude. Warwickshire have obviously come up from 3B to 3A. Liam Watson would have been one of the big players 2 years ago, which would have helped to get them promoted. Warwickshire gave London a walkover in the corresponding fixture last week because it was going to come down. I'm presuming it was because it was going to come down to this relegation match. Yeah, London should win this handy. London should win this by double figures. London will be much greater kind of depth of talent than Warwickshire would have.
Yeah. So the 3A final, Armagh Donegal. So Armagh won three of their games, drew 2. Donegal won 4 and lost 1 of their games coming into this final. So Armagh beat Donegal already.
Just on that as well, like it's always an interesting scenario for Declan Coulter. Declan Coulter is former Armagh hurler, like the best hurler Armagh would have had, and he's got married to Danny Cullen's sister. Danny would be, I think he's Donegal captain, long-serving midfielder for the last 10 years.
Played for Coulter for a year.
Yeah, he's a very good player. He got married to Danny's sister and transferred to Setanta in Donegal to play his club hurling, where he won a county title maybe last year or the year before, and also transferred county allegiances. So this has happened a couple of times now where he's had to go and play against his former county. It must be a horrible situation every time it happens, but and it's basically Armagh losing their best player, and he's now Donegal's best player. That's the way it is. But I'm sure you're not winning really either way.
Yeah, and then the final game of the weekend, refixed round 3 game from 3B, which is Fermanagh against Sligo. So Fermanagh are second last. They've won 1 of their 3 games, and Sligo are top. 3 wins from 3, plus 27 scoring difference.
Sligo are a funny one. Sligo are in, how many divisions are there in hurling? 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, 3A. Sligo are in the 6th division of league hurling, and yet will play the likes of Offaly in the Christy Ring Cup later on this year. The third championship competition, which is a fair achievement in itself.
So that's the hurling. If there's anything we didn't bring up, send us a message and we'll try and talk about it the next time. And don't forget to follow the channel on YouTube. Thanks for watching Our Game. Don't forget to like and share the videos, and if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe.